is Grace. I'm 26 years old and I moved to Whatcom County when I was 22. I feel drawn to stay here because of how beautiful it is and the fact that I have such a high quality of life by just being able to walk and bike a lot of the places that I want to go and get places quickly. That really matters a lot to me, to not spend a lot of time in a car or commuting. But I would say definitely the biggest reason is the people that I have here and that I continue to meet, because people are very willing to help you in your life and create a life and enjoy time together, and those are really important values of mine, so that really drew me to stay here. I work as the events manager at Paper Whale, which is a local nonprofit. We work doing large-scale community events, one in the winter right now called Fire and Story that I'm working on, and then one in the summer called Noisy Waters Mural Festival. But we do lots of other art installation and public events throughout the year, and yeah, I'm really loving that job. It feels very local, which matters to me. I feel like housing matters to me a lot. I feel like it matters to everyone a lot. It can be either something that super benefits your life or really destabilizes it. I've been super fortunate to have housing situations here where I didn't feel like I was being charged out of the space, but I hear about those situations a lot. And I think in my current rental, which is renting from a friend's parent, if I didn't have that sort of situation, I think I would feel very stressed about housing and living here, and could definitely see it being something that created the situation in which I would look to move somewhere, because housing feels super expensive to me. Yeah, I definitely have heard myself say a couple times in the last year, well, we'll see if I ever buy a house. And it's a hard position to be in, I would say, because I really care about my space and I really want to be someone who can host and offer a lovely place, not only for myself but for others. And so not feeling like that could become an opportunity for me is definitely something on my mind that feels sad. But yeah, I would say overall I really notice a lot of issues in people's lives with rent. It feels like something that is constantly changing and not to young people's advantage, and that feels stressful for sure. I see that housing often costs 50% of what people make or more. A lot of my good friends recently who make fine wages have had to change housing situations because they're paying $2,000 a month and they don't make much more than that. I see people leave Bellingham because of how expensive it is. And I would say what's tied to that, of course, is that also it can be hard to find work where you could afford that much of an expense. So I definitely see it being people's biggest expense and biggest stress. What I've really noticed in the community is just people trying to create housing situations for one another, some funny housing situations, because the options are often really unreasonable with what people are paid. And I would say most of the people my age don't think that they'll be able to buy a house. Definitely people in my life want to be homeowners and want to have families, but I would say there's a lot of hesitation. People saying if this and this and this could all happen, then maybe. And those are things if I suddenly have a career that pays me way more, or if there's a house that goes on the market and doesn't just get grabbed by a cash offer out of town, then maybe I would have a family. But yeah, there's a lot of people I know that want to have families and honestly have said they probably won't until they know they could afford more than they can now, and they don't see that path right now. So yeah, I would say I do think it's a driver of people to not want to have kids because of the cost of living. I think a lot of people in my world are basically willing to try and figure it out to stay here because they love it so much, but I do think it's really changing the lives that we're choosing. People are leaning away from wanting to have families because of it, which is hard. Obviously, that's a big deal to people. I would say also then people need to not work locally and get higher paying jobs that are remote. For me, that isn't preferential, and I think it's not necessarily their preference, feeling not connected to the community. I would say overall, especially a lot of people I know that are from here tend to want to move back. It's such a lovely place with really amazing people. But yeah, I would say that they're stopped oftentimes by lack of work. I've heard from many people, but also experience that, there's not a ton of job opportunities. It's a smaller place, and because it's so desirable to live in, it seems like people kind of snatch up the opportunities that there are. So I definitely see people not moving here because of that would want to live here, or leaving because they got a better opportunity somewhere else. I would love to be able to buy a house in the next 10 years. That would mean so much to me. I feel like being able to feel like I had the choice financially to have kids or not would mean a lot to me. I'm not as attached to having kids as some other people, but I could definitely see myself in the next 10 years wanting that. And I think it would feel really hard if it felt like I couldn't do that here, because I would like to, but I definitely could see, if I want to have a family, that being the biggest thing that would take me from Bellingham, is if I felt like I couldn't afford to buy a house and raise a family here. I definitely would consider moving, even though that's really not what I want, because I love it here and really want to live here. Yeah, I think the main thing would be, I really would love to be able to buy a house, even if I don't have kids, and I don't know if that will happen here, but I guess I have hope, even if it might be ignorant. So we'll see. I think that there's like a shortage of housing here, and that needs to be addressed, but it feels like oftentimes when housing is built, then the rent is still like astronomical, so it doesn't feel like it helps us a ton, unfortunately. I feel like the main reason I feel secure is genuinely because I know that I have the support of my community members, and it isn't necessarily that I feel like rules and regulations are looking out for me. And so I'd love to feel like both were at play. I think what makes Bellingham feel the safest, for me at least, is the privilege of having people that I know are looking out for me. And I want those people to be able to stay, and I hope that the regulations can do something to help the efforts that the community members are doing to keep people here.